Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and you know how much I love comics from all over the publishing spectrum. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on an indie writer, creator who's had a plethora of books already available, here to talk about her new book, Vikings The Saga of the North. It is the fantastic Phoebe A. Xavier. Phoebe, how's it going?
Hello. It's going well. Thanks for having me on, Johnny.
You are more than welcome. More than welcome. I suppose with a surname like Xavier, you were bound to fall into comics, right?
Transgender women get to pick their own name, and as one, I picked Phoebe Xavier.
All right, cool.
And it's not actually it's not derived from Professor X. Actually,
it's not.
But yeah.
Oh man.
No.
See, he's me hoping I was going to get introduced to Bruce Wayne somewhere down the line. Oh, never mind. Excellent. So tell us, how did you get into comic books? What was the thing that caught your attention?
As a kid, my mom gave me her books when I was very young. When I graduated out of Dr. Seuss and Green Eggs and Ham or whatever, she had boxes and boxes that she had collected in the late 50s, early 60s, and she gave them to me, and that's what first got me into comic books.
So, do you still have these books? You'd be sitting on a small fortune.
Oh, no. I wish. Actually, half of her collection had been destroyed, like in a flood in her basement. So she only had like half of those Silver Age books that she had. But she got me interested in Superboy, Superman, Supergirl, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen. Back when, she read at the time when all those side characters had their own books and specials and stuff.
Cool. So you're a DC girl at heart. Is that what we're saying?
No. Then when I started collecting my own books, I was definitely more interested in Marvel. The X-Men through the 90s is probably my favorite comic book arc ever.
Yeah. Oh, through the 90s. Was that just after Jim Lee then, or around that time?
He was involved in some part of that. He launched that the X-Men just without the Uncanny or whatever. Age of Apocalypse, Inferno, all the some of the greatest crossover stories that the X-Men did back then. Introduction of Gambit, Bishop, other people like that.
Cool, Gambit and Bishop. They're such mainstays now. People forget they've only been around for, I don't want to say how many years, Phoebe, they'll make me feel old. I turn around and say, what was it? 33 years? I feel old.
30 years ago, 30 plus years,
Killing me. Killing me. All right, okay. So I've got you into reading comics. What got you into creating them?
At a very early age, I was friends with other people who were into comic books. Some of them were into drawing, others were into writing. Mm-hmm. And we definitely tried making our first comic books when we were 10 years old. And I wasn't as good with drawing, but I kept writing, and I pursue writing also in narrative fiction. I published my first book this past year, which is a collection of short stories, and I had one of my short stories featured in this collection right here in the last couple months, which was published, Fading Hopes. So I've continued to write, even though I know I wasn't cut out to be an artist, and but what brought me back to it was a few years ago, I guess. I put aside musical performance, which I had done for a long time, and decided to pursue comic books and my narrative fiction as my creative outlet. Mm-hmm. So maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I shifted into I'm going to make comic books.
Cool. Is there much of a difference between creating music and creating comics? I guess both have a message to tell. You kind of have get emotion elements out of both, I suppose.
Yeah. Also, a story. There's often a story, even in music. And I think something that I've always done with writing, whether it be for songs or for a comic book or narrative fiction is I make word banks. Like I come across words and I'm like, oh, I like that word. Like I maybe don't know what it means, or maybe I know what it means, but it's semi-obscure. I'm like, all right, let's get that into a story. So like, I definitely used to do that with music. Yeah. And I do it with my writing as well. Yeah.
I went to years ago. I went to a writing club. I didn't stay very long, and there was a word, obfuscation. That was a word I had to write. I had to write a story with obfuscation. I was like, "Are you kidding?" This is why I didn't stay that long. I'm like, "What the?" It was how the line dictionary, and I got very, very familiar. I'm like, right, what is going on? I think I did. I think I wrote like a quick lawyer type. You know, when you're sort of like trying to put someone on the stand and get the truth out of them. I think I wrote something along those lines to get the obfuscation out there. So word banks are cool. Definitely.
Yeah.
So when you think about writing, then I've had a look at your website, and there's a whole host of different things on there. You can check it over there. Go to indyplanet.com. 1, 2, 3, go. Dead simple. Pause the video if you have to before you go. It's fine. We'll show that again later. Looking at the website, you've got quite a diverse range of storytelling. There's quite a lot of different things going on. What's the key for you to be so, I guess, diverse in the stories that you tell?
Well, I would say my team is very diverse. That the people I work with, artists and other writers, colorists, are from all over North America, but also from Europe. And I don't think I'm working with anybody in Australia at the moment, but definitely in Asia and Africa, South America. That the people I work with are from all over the planet. So that's definitely something that keeps a little bit of the variety going.
Is there a room on the team for a Brit?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we have I think 2 Irish gents that I work with. So the UK is represented.
Yeah. All right, excellent. You were sorry I interjected. I interrupted a little bit there, Phoebe.
No, it's okay. But I do also take other than being a writer myself, I'm also the editor for people on my team who sometimes I run stories, anthologies. For example, 13th Moon, which is a free download on that website that he posted, is a anthology, a Halloween anthology, and the volume 2 should be available very soon as well. We just wrapped that one up recently.
I've had a look at the website, and there are quite a few books on there. There seems to be a state of undress with a few of them. Is this a kind of vibe that you go for? Or is that just kind of where the story goes?
Are we talking about the scintillating half-naked ladies?
Yeah. You got to say that a little bit. Yeah, definitely. There's 13.
So Schwenchin, yes, that's a free download. Okay, Schwenchin, who did those 2 covers, the Gunmetal Black Ops covers. Also, if you scroll down to Trouble, he did that cover as well.
Oh yes,
that one.
I can see the style. I can see the style now that you've mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a full-time hentai artist. Like when he's not drawing comic books, he draws hentai professionally.
Wow. All right. So this is tame in comparison.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Definitely. That is kind of tame compared to some of the stuff that I've seen Schwenchin draw. Yes. But it's so talented, and sex sells. You know. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to put those 2 characters, 2 assassin ladies on the ones up top that you showed. They're not my characters. Frederick B. Roseman invented them, but I write stories, and Frederick draws the stories. Then, Trouble is another one that is a free download. 13th Moon Volume 1 and Trouble are both free downloads.
I shall have a look at those. 13th.
Cool. Also, the website Indyplanet, it's not my website. It's run by some top people out of Florida. But it's a great service that allows indie creators to sell their books.
Perfect. To be fair, I have seen Indyplanet a fair few times. It's a good alternative to some Kickstarters and stuff like that. You know, online comics. I think if you're thinking you've got a worldwide diverse creative team, shipping's a pain in the bum. So pretty much going online to get it with no delivery costs is probably the best thing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's they do direct mailing too. Like if you fund a Kickstarter, they're not going to mail it to me. They're going to mail it directly to the people who help support that.
Even better. Right, you've mentioned the KS word. So you have a Kickstarter coming out on October the 6th. This is for your new book. It's called Vikings Saga of the North. We're going to take a look at a couple of images from this. So tell us first of all where this has kind of come from. Why Vikings all of a sudden?
So a lot of the places where I meet and encounter the people that I will work with on independent comic books is on Facebook forums, where people are either like, I need an artist, or I need an editor, or I need a letterer, colorist, whatever. And so Jose Ernesto Diaz had made a post like, hey, I'm making this comic book, Vikings. I don't know if he had the title Saga of the North yet, but he's like, I'm making this Vikings comic book and I need someone to publish it. And I was like, well, maybe let me see what you have. And I saw his artwork, which was really, really good. Mm-hmm. And then I asked him like what the story was. And he didn't really have a narrative arc. He just had a friend that he was working with that wanted to keep it all historically accurate. And so we yeah. And but so that friend had gone ahead and like tried to like page for page just write factual information that would go along with the art that Jose had drawn. Okay. And then I kind of came in as a writer and an editor and was like, wait, we need an actual narrative arc, and like these pages don't support the narrative arc. So we threw out a lot of pages. I think would have been 40 pages originally, and it's like 22. It's like 22 now. Yeah. Well, we also shrunk down certain pages to make them panels like on a page. All in all, yeah, that's the cover. I sent you a watermarked version.
That's fine. But I'm all right with watermarks. Go for it.
Yeah. And so that's a wraparound cover. I helped Jose add the narrative arc of like the beginning of the Viking Age through a lot of detail about their culture and historical events to the end of where I think 1066 there's a battle on a bridge that is traditionally considered the last battle of the Viking Age, and sort of how history shifted away from Europe fighting amongst itself as much as sending Christians down to fight in the Middle East as the Crusades would start. Yeah. So maybe that's another book. We'll visit that age in another book. But yeah, for now we're really happy to have finished this 22-page book.
Cool. I see what you mean when looking at this page. This is one of the early pages of the book. It is very text driven, and you've got the picture, and then you've got the blurb at the top there, kind of talking a little bit there. It doesn't seem very comic booky at this stage. Do things get a little bit more? More comic booky with speech bubbles and stuff, or is it very much text driven?
This is the format. That's how it is. Yep. Cool. It's more of an educational picture page kind of thing.
All right. Excellent.
And Jose's, I think it's his niece, did additional coloring. She colored like on those two images, for instance. The more detailed coloring was all done by her. And then later, when I told Jose, "Hey, we're gonna need certain panels," like those two are newer panels. I think those three might be newer panels. And but the one up there in the corner was the original, like super detailed textured one. So there is a little bit of you can almost tell which ones are the more detailed ones that Adriana colored. But yeah, Jose did his own coloring on the newer panels that I had him do.
So was it hard to kind of mix the two different styles going on there? Because normally you want something to be a little bit more cohesive, right?
Well, that's what actually it's making it more cohesive in that like we needed other parts to fill out the information detail that I'm putting on each page. So yeah, it's going, but doing two things at once. You can visually have that dissonance, but it's also helping me sew the narrative together.
Yeah, cool. It reminds me very. You said educational books. It does kind of remind me of that kind of like picture encyclopedia type thing where you kind of have the picture that entertains, and then you've got the text that's supposed to tell you and educate you and stuff. So interesting choice. Normally when you see Vikings, it's out like the TV show, isn't it? It's all like bare-chested blokes and long hair and drinking beer and shouting "Crom" a lot. Wait, that's Conan, not Vikings. But you get my point.
Yeah, that is Conan. yeah. So no, it was never going to be an action book, and it was actually Jose's vision from the start to be able to offer it as an educational sort of thing, to sell it to schools possibly. So that was part of his vision, why I kind of went in that direction with it. But if hopefully this Kickstarter will be successful, even if it isn't, it'll be available. The book will be available on 123 Indyplanet 123 Go later on. But the Jose just has put so much work into this. I'm just trying to make sure Jose gets paid. Like, the pages are all done. It's not like we have to pay money for anything except for I want to make sure he gets paid and that like it's available for interested readers. It's been a lot of fun to work on it with him, and if this is successful, we're going to do another series. It'll be more of a fantasy Vikings thing, more like the stuff you were just talking about. And it's a book that'll feature. Do you know who Yule Cat is? Have you heard of Yule Cat?
Yule Cat.
From Iceland?
He's like Top Cat's mate from across the pond, right?
He's like this giant cat that eats children on Christmas if they don't have new clothes. He's from Iceland. Yeah. He's awesome, right?
This explains why I got pajamas every Christmas.
Yes, keeping you safe. So like I'm going to incorporate Yule Cat as a character, and Yule Cat's going to be like on a Viking ship with also an elf, because that's like part of the sagas. They believe in like elves and dwarves and shit like that. So it's going to be more of a fantasy version of a Viking story with more action and more of a comic book type thing with captions and talk bubbles like you were saying. And that one will be Vikings, the Arctic passage, and it'll be them like sailing through the north to the top of Japan by like the third or fourth issue.
Well, Japan, watch out for hentai and Vikings. That'll be a mix for you.
Yeah, I think maybe it'll be like probably more likely ninjas, but yeah.
Ninjas and hentai and Vikings. Oh my God, what's this book going to look like?
Well, it's probably going to look like the art in Viking Saga of the North, because it'll be the same artist, Jose.
Fair point. I was being facetious. I apologize. All right, before we get into some more character designs, which we have all queued up, ready to go. Time for another one of our other shows. Phoebe, I'm disappointed when you said you're a Marvel fan. Very disappointed. All right, so time. Go on, you say?
I like DC as well. I just got in my personal collection would have been more Marvel books.
Okay, fine. I don't judge. That's fine. That's cool. Yeah. I have some Marvel books. So here we are. It's the advert for our Marvel show, the No Prize Podcast. Check it out. There you have it. The No Prize Podcast drops every other week for Marvel, Disney Plus, and MCU. The guys will be getting ready to talk about the new Marvels movie, which is due in a few months. And of course, everything up to date with young Ahsoka there over on Disney, if you like Star Wars. They might even get to talk about some comic books. Who'd have thunk?
I like Ahsoka, the character, and I like Star Wars, but I've been very disappointed by the show so far.
You know, Phoebe, I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. I watched the last episode, and my wife turned to me and she goes, "What do you think of that episode?" I was like, "I didn't realize I was watching Top Gun."
Yeah, they've also totally changed like the Ahsoka's arc because she's not a Jedi. She would not take on a Padawan. It was like not only did the Jedi Council kick her out as she's no longer a Jedi, they then offered her reinstatement, and she was like, "Nah, you guys are corny," like, and went and did her own thing. Like, there's no way she would like 10 years later be the making Sabine her Padawan. That's just like terrible canon. They broke canon.
And,
Uh,
and there's no way Sabine has force powers. There's nowhere in Rebels is it hinted that Sabine has force powers.
Yeah, no, she's just talented with the saber because she's a Mandalorian. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's crazy.
It's a dark saber Mandalorian sword. It's not a lightsaber saber. It's the Mandalorian saber.
Yeah.
Who do you think?
No, it's.
Who do you think the bad guy is in the mask? Do you think
I'm not sure. It's just another one of the Inquisitors or whatever.
Yeah, you think? I don't know. I keep
maybe. I don't know.
Some people tell me
Why?
it's Ezra.
Wait, who? Kylo Ren?
Not Ezra Miller. Ezra. What's his face?
Oh, no way. No. He's the one he's stuck in the same place Thrawn is. Wherever Thrawn is where he is.
That's Ezra Bridger, sorry. That's what I say. I say Ezra Bridger. He's stuck where Thrawn is. If they have him, they know where Thrawn is.
Okay, another quick question. Why is there a map to go to the place that we don't know where he went when it was spontaneous and nobody knew where they would be brought to by that teleportation? And B, why is Sabine the one that can figure it out? These are things that they just throw in there like as if like, yeah, you should just go along with this because this is ridiculous, but we have lightsaber battles, so come watch it.
I think, Phoebe, you speak my language on this. I almost got into a Twitter war a little while ago because I had the audacity. Someone had said, current Star Wars is not my Star Wars. I want my Star Wars back. At which point I wrote a little message out with my little thumbs. I was like, okay, first off, please bear in mind, Star Wars is and always will be a kid's movie. The thing is, we're now looking at it with our more mature eyes and our tastes have changed. And now we actually want story to make sense. Back when we were a kid watching Star Wars the first time around, we're like blown away. They're like, oh, wow, the Land Speeder and the Millennium Falcon and all that sort of stuff. And when you think back now, none of it makes sense. So
now they're huge holes in all.
Exactly. To which point, I almost sent the message, but I managed common sense took hold. And I said, no, I can't send this message because if I send this message, this is what my weekend's going to be about. Defending me. But I think some of the things that you're saying resonate with me because I think, well, you know what? I am an older Star Wars fan and I do want to watch Star Wars and I want it to make sense. It's like The Mandalorian. I thought the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian was perfect. Luke turns up, takes the kid, goes to be a Jedi. Stop there. It's done. There's nothing else you can do. And when they do season 3, it's pants. Practically. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kate Sackhoff's hot regardless, but still.
Do you ever watch the YouTube channel Pitch Meeting?
No, I don't think so.
It's a guy who plays both characters. He's both the writer who's pitching the story and the producer who can approve it. Right. And he just tears movies apart. He's hilariously brutal. And his pitch meeting on Boba Fett, the book of Boba Fett, is one of the funniest things you could ever watch. He's just like, they stop, and then we're gonna just like stop for 2 episodes and do two episodes about the Mandalorian. Like, why? Because I wanted to. Okay. And we're gonna, and he clocks it. He's like, he actually spends 20 minutes repairing his spaceship in the one episode. The episode that Boba Fett doesn't even appear in. And he's just like, Boba Fett doesn't appear in his own show? Like, no. Why? Because I want to. It's very funny. I recommend everybody watch that. I think that Mando was pretty shittily written in the first 2 seasons too. Maybe not in the overall arc of the adopting Grogu or whatever, but more just in like there's certain plot holes in every single episode that you're just like if you're watching closely, there are huge holes in every fucking episode. And as a writer, that like makes me cringe. I don't know.
Well, as a reader, it makes me cringe. So here's the thing that gets me about Mando, and then we'll get back to talk about Vikings. The thing that gets me about Mando is he's supposed to be a badass, right? You kill you by just looking at you and all this sort of stuff. But everywhere he goes, he says, "Give me what I want," and everyone turns around and says, "Yes, but you must do this for me first." Now, if I was a badass, I'd just pull a gun out and say, "Give me what I want," and be done with it.
Yeah. On Boba Fett too, if you look through the whole series of Boba Fett, it's a series of him asserting the plan that he wants to happen, and then they refuse to do it, and then things happen anyway. But like, yeah, he's Boba Fett again, like the toughest Star Wars character ever on his own show, can't even get people to do shit. But
I wouldn't say it's he goes out like a wuss, gets sarlacked by a blind man, no less. Anyway, enough Star Wars. Let's talk about some of the designs for the characters. Here we go. This is Ethel the Red, perhaps. There's some crazy stuff going on.
No, this is so. This is drawings that we're just throwing in with our promotional stuff. But this is more the look of what the next Vikings book is going to look like. Just showing off some of Jose's art. Yeah. He's been working on some character design for the next book, and that's what these pictures that I sent you represent.
You know what? Now you've said the Japanese, because obviously you mentioned about the Japanese element on there. These are very Japanese-esque staff things he's got going on. That is quite impressive.
It's a shoulder thing, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's pretty cool. What else?
Jose's pretty amazing.
Yeah. What's it like working with people who are like so talented that kind of just get the vision straight away?
I mean, he's a very talented artist, and I think that everybody that I work with is very talented. And part of my job as an editor, which is definitely a role that I have taken on in this book, is helping people carve out their vision and make it smoother and more precise than what they came to me with. And over the last year and a half, Jose and I have finished a pretty awesome book, I believe. And I think our goal is only going to be like $2,000, and like I said, that's mostly just to put some money in his pocket. Which Jose is from Guatemala, so a couple $100 in U.S. dollars can go a long way down there for him and his family. We're going to also add a stretch goal. I think of like $4,000, and if we get to $4,000, we'll do an entire Spanish language version where I will re-letter the whole book in Spanish. Yeah, and that's like no, but he is, yeah, and all of his friends and family that he wants to sell to speak Spanish, and so we're going to see if we do stir up enough of an international interest to make it worth our time to go back and do that too.
Cool, excellent. Sounds like you've got the plans, Phoebe. Sounds like you're going to do a fantastic job for sure. Will this be your first Kickstarter, or have you had successful Kickstarters?
No, this will be like my fourth maybe that I've tried, and I'm like one for three so far. And I've helped. I've launched with helped Jeffrey Haas launch the Malik Reigning Devil issue 2 Kickstarter. So I'm sort of like 2 for 4, but he actually ran that campaign. I just assisted. Yeah. So about 2 for 4, and this is the first one in like 2 years that I've tried, and I think it's a little bit less than the last one that I failed on. And we're just, I've also been told, Jeffrey told me that this month, the October into November, is called the Gauntlet, because it's like the hardest month to launch a project on Kickstarter, but we're going to go for it one more
time. Is that because of Halloween? And everyone's all Halloween?
It's because it's like the last burst of spending before everyone's diverting all their money to specific Thanksgiving or Christmas reasons.
Oh, okay. Tell them to buy a comic book for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a Viking themed Christmas comic book.
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it? Definitely, yeah. Nothing says Christmas like a Viking.
Like a historical Viking volume, yes.
Yeah, there you go. You saw the link earlier. There it is again. Indyplanet.com. Type in 123 go into their search. You'll get to where Phoebe's books are and Phoebe's friends' books are. There is a whole wide range of different stuff on there. We saw the website earlier, so don't forget to check that out.
There's 2 Christmas books up there. Santa Claus. There's Santa Claus 1 and 2 are up there.
I dread to ask what's in there, but we'll just let that go. What else was I going to say? The Kickstarter goes live on October the 6th, as we mentioned earlier. You know how this works. It's Kickstarter. You go to Kickstarter. You go to the search bar. You type in Viking Saga of the North. And guess where that will take you?
To our page, which I've got to work on later today.
There you go. So keep that in mind. All right. So simply go to Kickstarter, type Vikings of the North. Viking Saga of the North, and it'll come up, and you'll be able to get there. Phoebe's working on the page as we speak. There will be, I'm sure there'll be a launch page there, so you can get notified when it goes live. October the 6th, get your bids in early before Halloween, and that would pretty much ensure you get your book. It's easy peasy. What more could you want? You talked about pitch meeting as a YouTube channel. Phoebe, give me your 30-second pitch on why people should be heading over to pick up Vikings.
It is a beautiful book. The art is amazing. I did my best to pull together a educational narrative summary of the Age of the Vikings. It's there is a little bit of action on the page, but it's not an action comic book. It is very much like a art and education book. And Jose deserves it. Jose deserves to make some money off of this hard work. And I told him that I would do the lettering, the editing, and all that stuff, and get it out on Kickstarter. So I'm just trying to follow through and make sure his hard work is not for nothing.
There you go. Perfect. Perfecto. Excellent. Well done. Phoebe, it's been an absolute blast talking to you. I absolutely loved hearing your viewpoints on Star Wars. What a nice little chat that was. I'd be interested to talk all other.
Thank you, Johnny.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, if you guys ever want to have me on to talk Star Wars, I have all sorts of Star Wars ideas.
I'll hold you to that. All right. Don't forget to check out the UCPM for all your favorite shows. You saw the trailer for it earlier. It's a No Prize podcast for all you Marvel fans. And if, like Phoebe, you still like some DC, don't forget to check out the Definitive Crusade for everything that is DC oriented, apart from the movies. Because apparently nobody goes to the movies to watch a DC movie. I don't know what that's all about. I'm sure Phoebe has points on that as well. Phoebe, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it must be really hectic getting everything sorted, so I do appreciate this.
Thank you for having me on, Johnny.
You're more than welcome. That's it for another show. I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. And as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.